Number 1. A man mowed his lawn every Saturday morning at 9. Same as always. A neighbor complained the sound of the mower was aggressive, as if the machine had personally insulted her. It's a lawnmower, not a threat. Number 2. A woman edged her lawn into crisp, clean lines along the sidewalk. A passerby complained it looked too perfect and made his own yard feel judged. Grass cannot judge you. Be honest. Have you ever felt personally attacked by a hedge trimmer? Number 3. A family planted a small vegetable patch along their side fence. The neighbor complained it smelled like dirt. It is, in fact, dirt. Number 4. A homeowner watered his lawn twice a week, well within any reasonable schedule. A neighbor complained the sprinkler noise interrupted her meditation, which she was apparently practicing directly beside a shared fence line. Number 5. A retired couple kept their lawn a rich, even green through careful watering. Someone 2 doors down complained it made their own brown lawn look bad on purpose, as if grass has motive. Number 6. A teenager mowed diagonal stripes into the lawn for fun. A neighbor filed a complaint that the pattern was distracting while driving past at 15 miles an hour. Number 7. A man trimmed his hedges into simple, tidy rectangles. Someone complained the shapes were too corporate-looking for a residential street. Would you have known that was a category of complaint? Number 8. A woman raked her leaves into a single, tidy pile for pickup. A neighbor complained the pile blocked his view of her yard, a view he had never previously mentioned wanting. It somehow gets worse. Number 9. A family installed a small decorative bird bath. A neighbor complained it encouraged too many birds, as though birds required an invitation, and this one had been sent in error. Number 10. A man planted rows of tulips along his front walkway. Someone complained the colors were too cheerful for the neighborhood's aesthetic, a standard that notably exists nowhere in writing. Number 11. A woman kept her grass at a tidy 2.5 inches, right where lawn experts recommend. A neighbor complained it was unnaturally short, despite being nowhere close to a golf green. Number 12. A homeowner replaced a dead patch of grass with fresh sod. The neighbor complained the new patch was too green compared to the rest, a complaint about grass being successfully grass. Number 13. A man mulched his flower beds with dark, fresh mulch. Someone complained the smell carried into their yard, despite a full fence and 20 feet separating the two properties. Number 14. A woman planted a small row of lavender along her fence. A neighbor complained it attracted too many bees in a suburb in spring where bees already lived. Number 15. A retiree power washed his driveway on a Sunday afternoon. A neighbor complained the noise disrupted his nap schedule, which he had never shared with anyone on the street. This next one defies logic. Number 16. A family strung simple white string lights along their patio for the summer. A neighbor complained the lights were visible from space, a claim that, geographically, is simply untrue. Number 17. A man planted a single small tree in his own front yard, set back from the property line by regulation. A neighbor complained it would eventually block a view that the tree, fully grown, would not come close to reaching. Number 18. A woman replaced her cracked concrete path with matching new concrete. Someone complained the new section was too smooth, making her own uneven path look neglected by comparison. Number 19. A homeowner trimmed an overgrown bush back to a reasonable size. A neighbor complained the bush had provided her privacy, despite the bush sitting entirely on the other person's property. Number 20. A man reseeded a bare patch of lawn. A neighbor complained about the texture inconsistency between old and new grass, as if lawns were expected to age in perfect unison. Have you ever seen someone complain about grass texture with a straight face? Number 21. A family added a modest wooden planter box near their porch. A neighbor complained it changed the sightline of the street, a phrase that means nothing but sounds official. Number 22. A man mowed his lawn in the early evening instead of morning. A neighbor complained the timing disrupted her golden hour, a term meant for photography, not lawn maintenance schedules. Number 23. A woman planted rose bushes along a shared fence line, well within her own yard. A neighbor complained the thorns were aggressive, despite never once touching them. Number 24. A homeowner installed a simple rain barrel to collect runoff. Someone complained it was an eyesore, despite being tucked behind the house and visible from exactly nowhere on the street. Number 25. A man kept a small stack of firewood neatly arranged beside his shed. A neighbor complained it looked rural, a description meant somehow as an insult. It somehow, impossibly, gets worse from here. Number 26. A woman replaced her chain-link fence with a nicer wooden one, fully within code. A neighbor complained the new fence cast a shadow onto her yard for roughly 20 minutes each afternoon, a shadow caused entirely by the sun's position, not the fence's existence. Number 27. A family added a small flagstone patio in their backyard. A neighbor complained it increased the family's property value unfairly, as though home improvement were a competitive sport with rules against winning. Number 28. A man watered his lawn during an approved watering window. A neighbor complained the runoff reached her driveway, despite a slope that had existed, unchanged since before either of them moved in. Number 29. A woman trimmed her grass along the property line with careful precision. A neighbor complained the exact line felt hostile, as if a straight edge were a form of aggression. Number 30. A homeowner installed motion sensor lights near his own front door. A neighbor complained the light occasionally caught the edge of her yard, despite the sensor being calibrated to a 15-foot radius around his own porch. We're only halfway through, and reality is about to start slipping further. Number 31. A man planted a small vegetable garden with a low decorative fence around it. A neighbor complained the fence implied exclusivity, a phrase usually reserved for country clubs, not tomato plants. Number 32. A woman's cat occasionally wandered into a neighbor's yard. That neighbor filed a complaint against her landscaping specifically, arguing her inviting garden design was luring the cat. The cat, for the record, was uninterested in landscaping opinions. Number 33. A family added a modest gravel path through their side yard. A neighbor complained the crunching sound of footsteps on gravel was unsettling to hear from indoors, with the windows closed. Number 34. A man's lawn recovered beautifully after a long drought thanks to consistent care. A neighbor complained this made her own drought-damaged lawn look worse by comparison, a complaint about the passage of time and effort, essentially. Number 35. A woman planted a modest hedge along her property line, well under the height limit. A neighbor complained it would eventually grow tall enough to matter, years before it legally could. Be honest, would you have guessed people file complaints about hedges that haven't grown yet? Number 36. A homeowner added a small decorative fountain near his porch. A neighbor complained the sound of trickling water was distracting her thoughts from 20 feet away, through a closed window, over a running television. Number 37. A man mowed his lawn in a slightly different direction than usual. A neighbor complained it disrupted the visual rhythm of the street, a rhythm that, until that moment, no one had ever claimed existed. Number 38. A family replaced an old wooden fence with a taller privacy fence, fully within the height limit. A neighbor complained she could no longer keep an eye on their backyard, a backyard she had notably never been invited to monitor. Number 39. A woman planted sunflowers that grew taller than expected. A neighbor complained they loomed, despite sunflowers doing precisely what sunflowers are designed to do. Number 40. A man's lawn simply looked better than it had the year before, through nothing more than regular care. A neighbor filed a complaint calling the improvement suspicious, as if healthy grass required an explanation. This next stretch is where things stop making sense entirely. Number 41. A homeowner painted his mailbox post a fresh coat of the same color it already was. A neighbor complained the wet paint smell persisted for days, despite paint drying, as paint does within hours. Number 42. A woman's automatic sprinklers ran for their scheduled 10 minutes. A neighbor complained this was excessive water usage, while personally hosing down his own driveway for entertainment on weekends. Number 43. A man added a birdhouse to a tree well within his own yard. A neighbor complained it might attract predators, a concern seemingly invented for this specific tree on this specific afternoon. Number 44. A family's lawn simply grew in thicker after reseeding. A neighbor complained the improved lawn made their street look like it was trying too hard, a phrase that means the grass was somehow too successful at being grass. Number 45. A man mowed a small strip of grass on public land next to his property, purely out of courtesy. A neighbor complained he was overreaching his authority, despite there being no authority involved, only a mower and free time. Have you ever seen someone punished for doing more than required? Number 46. A woman planted a modest row of hostas along her walkway. A neighbor complained the plants were too lush, a complaint about healthy foliage doing what healthy foliage does. Number 47. A homeowner's lawn recovered so well, it was mistaken for artificial turf by a passing stranger. A neighbor filed a complaint accusing him of installing fake grass without permit, based entirely on the compliment. Number 48. A man kept his gutters clean and functioning properly. A neighbor complained the sound of water flowing correctly through the downspout during rain was louder than expected, a complaint about physics behaving as physics does. Number 49. A woman's flower bed bloomed earlier than her neighbor's identical flower bed, planted the same week. The neighbor filed a complaint suggesting she had used unfair fertilizer, as though gardening had a doping policy. Number 50. A family added a modest, low garden fence to keep rabbits out. A neighbor complained the fence sent a message about the neighborhood's friendliness, apparently decoded entirely from 18 inches of chicken wire. We are now entering complaints that should not exist, and yet somehow do. Number 51. A man's lawn was so evenly mowed that a neighbor complained it made her feel less connected to nature, despite nature remaining fully intact on her own side of the fence. Number 52. A woman replaced her mailbox flag mechanism with a working one. A neighbor complained the flag now moved too smoothly, an actual complaint about reduced friction. Number 53. A homeowner's lawn simply stayed green through a mild winter due to grass type and normal weather. A neighbor accused him, in writing, of hiding his true water usage, a conspiracy theory about seasonal grass. Number 54. A man's freshly cut lawn released the ordinary universal smell of cut grass. A neighbor complained this smell was targeted at her open kitchen window, as though grass clippings had aim. Number 55. A woman's garden attracted butterflies, as gardens do. A neighbor complained the butterflies crossed the property line without permission, a sentence that somehow got written down and filed. Would you have believed someone tried to regulate butterfly movement? Number 56. A man added simple solar path lights along his own walkway. A neighbor complained the soft glow changed the mood of the entire block after sunset, a mood previously undefined by anyone. Number 57. A family's lawn won a small, informal Yard of the Month recognition from a local gardening club. A neighbor filed a formal complaint arguing the award itself was divisive to the street's harmony. And now, the entries where common sense fully leaves the conversation. Number 58. A man's lawn was so consistently well kept that a neighbor complained it was setting an unreasonable precedent for future homeowners, as though basic upkeep were a dangerous escalation. Number 59. A woman's rosebush produced an unusually large bloom one season. A neighbor filed a complaint claiming the flower was showing off, a description typically reserved for people, not roses. Number 60. A homeowner's grass simply grew back greener after a routine treatment. A neighbor accused him, seriously, of psychological warfare through landscaping, a phrase that should not exist outside of satire, yet here it is, straight from an actual complaint. Number 61. A man mowed his own backyard, fully enclosed by a privacy fence, completely out of view from any neighboring property. A neighbor still filed a noise complaint, admitting she couldn't see the yard but sensed the mowing was happening. Number 62. A woman's tomato plant grew a single tomato slightly larger than her neighbor's. The neighbor filed a formal complaint requesting the plant be measured for fairness, as if gardens were subject to inspection for competitive balance. Number 63. And in the most staggering case on this list, a man's lawn was so well maintained for so many consecutive years that a neighbor filed a complaint arguing his yard had